How we doing, everybody? We're just going to get cracking on here. First of all, I would just like to thank you all for coming out to this event. I've never done anything like this before, so if it's terrible, I apologise. But we're going to give it a good crack. And also it's a big thank you to Mark as well. I think you're a massively talented comedian, and I think, you know, I not just that, but a singer and a songwriter as well.
I can't sing.
What?
I can't sing.
But no, you're a very talented guy, and when I first actually had this idea for doing this, I reached out to Mark on social media, and he didn't really have to think about it. You know, I think you were very passionate about doing this from the start. You're just a bit of a scatty man to get a hold of, aren't you?
I'm a nightmare, aye. No, I'm buzzing. I'm absolutely buzzing. Thank you, Ross. Give it up for Ross. Let's give a wee clap for Ross.
I think it's coming out and doing these things. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. There'll be people here as well that will be definitely maybe stepping out of their comfort zone a little bit to come in. Nobody has to do anything tonight. That's the beauty of this. You can just sit here and just listen and laugh, and you have full permission to laugh at anything that we say. You know, and that's one of the things that I'm really looking to try, and we're trying to, you know, really put forward for an evening like this, is that, you know, is to try and put some humour into healing and into mental health. Into addiction, into these little quirks that we all have, and it's not that it's not necessarily that's making light the situation. It isn't a serious subject, but I think it's really just trying to lower those barriers of, you know, I think we all in some way are struggling. You know, nobody, I don't think, in this world's got it all figured out. You know, it's our world out there is challenging. You know, I don't think it really, as a species, I don't think we get everything that we could be from our environment. You know, I think it's quite easy to struggle. And I think it's great everybody to be here. And as I said, there is no expectations in anybody. You can literally just sit here and listen. The plan for the evening is to do maybe a podcast with Mark for maybe about an hour or so, and then open up the room for some questions. And then also, if anybody wants to share anything or share any wisdom about anything that we've spoken about that can help us, because nobody's got it all figured out. There might be someone in this room that actually holds the key, or anything, that they're going through something that that might intensely actually lock something for somebody else in the room. And yeah. But as I said, there's no expectations. I think the expectation for tonight is just to have some fun. And we're going to chat to Mark a little bit about his journey. It's something that I've always admired about yourself, is that you've always been very, very open about your struggles. In fact, you've done a full stand-up show pretty much.
I've milked it. I only have in the last, I suppose, year and a half, really been open about it. Before I was pretty much just hiding from it and denying that it was a problem, but so I'm now admitting I have a problem.
How, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say your mental health is right now? Like 10 being like and I don't know anybody that's a 10, but like, you know, compared to also to where you have been.
I would say it's probably like an 8. I'd say, aye. That's
brilliant.
And I think that's down to being in recovery, because I think a lot of my unhappiness was like being selfish, basically. Do you know what I mean? And since I've started to kind of direct my energy towards other people and helping other people, I suppose. And I'm like no perfect. I have days where I'm sitting self-pity all day. Do you know what I mean? And roll about on the couch, scrolling TikTok, like doom scrolling, and then by the end of the day I'm so depressed, and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? But I think recovery for me, I can't mention recovery because that's been a massive part of my life for the last 18 months, like just being in recovery, doing service at meetings, Aye, and I wouldn't be sober without it. So.
At what point? Because I think in anybody's journey, like what you're talking about there, when was the switch moment that you went from being? Because I remember when I used to get like fucked up a lot, right? And that's the thing is, and I used to, I had the mindset of that I was a legend, and that everybody else was boring. And it turns out I was bored. But like, you know, there's this moment, I think, in somebody's where I think we have that mask of being that madman, you know, and there's a lot of identity that's wrapped up in being that crazy guy. And then at some point, I think that mask slips a little bit. Can you remember when or how, or that there was that moment or that period of time when you went, I actually think I've got a problem here?
Aye, it was just like telling myself that I'm not going to, the same thing's not going to happen, and every single time the same thing happened, and it got worse and worse and worse. And I was just, by the end I was getting on it, like I was going out like three times a week, taking cocaine, drinking, ended up in random houses with all these seedy characters. I mean, I know like the problem in Glasgow is rife, do you know what I mean, in Scotland, so like, I know a lot of you probably have probably experienced gaffes, and you think, well, a gaffe's just a laugh, do you know what I mean, but it's a laugh until it's no, do you know what I mean. I was there, like, you're there, like, it'll be like a Monday night, and I'm in a gaff with like, it's like 20-year-old students and all that, and I'm like, trying to get a number for Eckies off them and all that, and it's like, I'm 28, and I'm like looking at it going, what am I doing here? Do you know what I mean? I remember, I mean, this is funny, I can tell this now, but I was out with my Tesco workmates, I was 27, and they were all like, when you go out with workmates, it's like sometimes they're like 8 years younger than you, and we're out in Paisley, and I felt dead old. I was like, I was still getting on it, and I went into one of the booths to ask my pal for cocaine. I was like, any gear, right? And when I was walking away, I overheard one of their other pals go, who was that mad junkie guy? And I was like, hey me, I'm the junkie guy. And obviously I don't use that word lightly. I don't like that word, obviously, because it's like, it's used to, it's the derogatory terms. I mean, I'd use it in the context of that story, but I'd hate when I'd see people use that in a derogatory way. But aye, so I had moments like that where I was like, man, it was like a wake-up call, like, what am I doing here? And not even just that, like my relationships, like family relationships, and you really don't understand the harm you're doing to the people around you. Do you know what I mean? To my mum, like, I think me just begging my mum for an extra 30 quid just and lying to her saying, oh, it's because I need food, and then I'm just spend it on fags and booze immediately, and it's like, that's insanity to me. Do you know what I mean? And I don't realise the harm that's causing to my mum and the peace of mind that I'm stealing for her every time I get on it. Because that's the thing, is really, in the last few months I've really seen people in recovery actually dying. You're like, this isn't actually a joke. Do you know what I mean? I know it was a joke in the moment, and oh, Mark's the funny guy, or you're the legend. But it's like, people actually die for this. So it's like, I don't think it's cool. I used to think it was cool to like act like, oh, I don't care, I'll get on it, have a laugh, and I'm like, well, what's funny about this? Do you know what I mean? I'm destroying every relationship around me. I have no money in the bank, I have nothing, and I've had feelings of suicide. It's like, when did this stop being a laugh? Do you know what I mean? It's like, but still I'm like, next time will be different. Mm-hmm. So it was just a continuous cycle of that same, that's what I call insanity. Do you know what I mean? Like, thinking I'm going to get a different result each time, when I know I'm not going to sit and do stand-up bits, but like I do a bit of my stand-up talking about that, how like I'll like have one sip of a drink and 3 years later I'm like in a gaff in Isle of Mull playing an accordion. I'm like, how did I get here? Do you know what I mean? That was insanity, and I would just end up in random places with dodgy characters, and I think that was the wake-up call. It has to be, I think they say in recovery, it has to be painful enough. Do you know what I mean? If you've not given up yet, it's like, and that might be hard to hear because it has been painful, but it's not been painful enough. And I stopped drinking for 6 months, and then I went a trip to France on my own, and I was in France and everybody's drinking, like, I mean the French do it very eloquently, they're very sophisticated, sorry. So I was like, I'll have one wine, that'll do me, because nobody will know. So I mean, I'm abroad, I'm on my own.
Yeah.
And I had a wine. 3 years later I was in an underground rave in the outskirts of Paris. Slut dropping on the dance floor. I was like, how did I get here? And that is funny to tell, but see, when I was living it, it was absolutely hell. Do you know what I mean? Like the come downs, and it's good to look back and.
Was it a constant spiral? Well, that's the thing is, you know, as you said, you were kind of, you know, you were sober for quite a while and then you slipped up. Then were you quick in picking yourself back up again, or was it another kind of slope into the same kind of routines and the same habits, or?
Well, it was worse, because see, when you've got the kind of information that I got for recovery that helped me stay off it for 6 months, having that in your head while also using is what, like, I'd be out with my friend, like, patronising him while I was steaming, going like, you can't stop drinking, can you? Like, you need recovery. And it's like, I'm steaming, telling him that. So it got even worse. It was like, it was even lower. And that's what they say, it just keeps getting lower and lower until you die. So, I mean, you don't want to die, do you?
I think I think so many young men go through that. Yeah, even from myself, like, I went away travelling for like 10 years and I was just like Peter Pan, and then, you know, it was just that, which was one constant party. But then I think at some point in a man's life, I think he starts to, you know, look for other stuff, maybe purpose and meaning to their life. But the problem is, I think what happens in that situation is that there's that person that's inside you that's looking for meaning and purpose and maybe something, you know, productive in your life, but then you're also stuck in the same cell with that maniac. And I think that basically that's that constant fight between those two people, where you've got somebody that's really striving and trying really hard to better themselves, but then you have an environment that basically that maniac always wins. Yeah. And that's where it was just like, that was something that was big for me, was really realising that I had to change my environment, and I had to change where I lived almost in a way as well. And you know, I wouldn't say I've lost friends, you know, but it's definitely there's certain people that you lose touch with. Right. You know, definitely. It's I call them meme friends. Like, yeah, they're friends that basically that used to they want to stay in touch with me, but they don't want to open up any dialogue. So basically, they'll just send me memes and then communicate with me through that way, which I'm happy with. You know what I mean? If people want to communicate with me in any way, do you know what I mean? There's no, like, you know, well, if you guys still want to drink and take drugs, I'm not going to sit and judge anybody, because 4 years ago I was the exact same, you know. And if I'm not going to get invited on nights out, me 4 years ago wouldn't have wanted me on that night out, because I don't know, it's just there's that guy that wants below surface level conversations, get him to fuck.
I think you need to have compassion for, I think when I first got sober, you do want to try and convert everybody. You're like, I found this amazing thing. Being sober is amazing, and you can't, some people aren't as bad as you say, do you know what I mean? They're not as mental as me on the drink, and they can have a few and go home. And I think it's just having compassion. Like, I've sponsored people as well, and there's some people have just not been ready. They're just not ready to stop, do you know what I mean? So I think having compassion towards everybody's.
What do you think drives your alcohol and drug intake? Is it anxiety? Is it depression?
I think I'm driven by so many different things, like it's fears. I think us humans walk about all day, not realising how many like forms of fear and resentment, especially anxiety, fears about the future, fears about the past. Resentment's a massive one. We talk about a lot as resentment's and one of the number one things that causes people to use. I think it's just a mixture of growing up. I don't know, like we'll probably talk about like ADHD and stuff, but like I grew up in quite a I'd say it was quite a traumatic environment as a kid, do you know what I mean? And I think all those things combined, having a dad who was a dry drunk essentially, and
What do you mean by dry drunk?
well, he had all the symptoms of an alcoholic, but he didn't drink. Do you know what I mean? Like he forced himself to stop. So he was sober, but he was the angriest man I've ever met in my life. Do you know what I mean? So I like all these different things are driving it. I don't think it's one thing. It's fear, resentment. It's just low self-esteem is a massive one. Do you know what I mean? Walking about like. It's that combination they talk about of a massive ego and like really low self-esteem, and I definitely had that. Still have it, but like I've worked on it a lot. That you just want to get out of your mind. It's just this constant need to. I need to get out of my mind. I need something. Whether it's even caffeine. Like right now, I struggle with caffeine. Like because I don't smoke. I stopped smoking, drinking, taking drugs, and now I still struggle with having at least one thing. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like buzzing at my tits every day on triple espressos and all that. So I've not yet given that up. But it's this it's just a constant need, and whether it's a lack of dopamine in my brain because of, I don't know, from birth or a combination of trauma. There's just some sort of need. I've repeated myself, but there's a need to just get out of my head all the time.
Yeah,
I can't sit in the uncomfortability. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I think
It's like a dysregulation in your kind of nervous system.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that when did you first start talking about ADHD? Like when did that because that's the thing is just like, I mean, me, like I'm undiagnosed ADHD, but like I've done enough reading into it now and research into it where I definitely know that I have it.
Right.
But if somebody had said to me 4 years ago, which they did do, which was you've got ADHD, and I would just go, well, so what? I've got to this point in life, then I don't really care. And then it wasn't really until you really start to read into it, where you're just like, right, that's why I've essentially been struggling my whole life. And a lot of things make sense. So when was that kind of moment for you? I think there was a friend of mine that put it perfectly when it comes to like ADHD, where it's just like, you spend your whole life thinking you're a broken horse and it turns out you're a zebra. And
that's very well put. I think, I mean, let me just say this. I've actually not had my final diagnosis for ADHD, right? I get this. I missed the final appointment 3 times. I'm like, just give me it. Like, I need this. I don't need it, but I'm like, is this no proof? So, and they literally said, we can't help you anymore, Mark. We've organised 3 appointments for you, and I missed every one of them. Got the wrong day, and that has always been a thing for me, is the kind of time blindness. And I think in school, I think from an early age, I have like physical tics a lot, and I don't know if that comes for that. I think it does, because I think they're all under the same umbrella, aren't they? Like Tourette's and autism and ADHD, Asperger's. But from a young age, I was like, I'd be like, do you know what I mean? People be like, why do you do that with your neck? Why do you fart with your eye? I can fart with my eye.
what? You fart with your eye?
Aye. I'm not doing it.
What?
I'll do it. I always say I'm not doing it, and I'm like, so I'd always do that at a young age, and I was like, there's a photo of me as a kid. Do you remember when we went to, do you remember Loudon Castle? Then we go to Loudon Castle. There's like the drop zone things.
Yeah.
Right. Do you think it drops you for a high height?
That was the place that had a roller coaster you could go upside down on, wasn't it?
I think it was. It had the big pirate ship and all. It's still there, but derelict. Do you know that? It's like
was it not open
There's
anymore?
like a glow. There's like something that's still the remnants of a roller coaster. Anyway, sorry.
Enough about Loudon Castle.
Pure ADHD. There's a picture of me on one of those drop zones, and you know, like we get those roller coaster photos there like that, your face. My face was like that, and we were on the ground. It wasn't an action shot. I was just like that at the bottom. Like, and I was like, "What's something wrong with me?" And then in school, also, like, I talk about this in comedy as well, because I like to make a joke at it. But my teachers would always say I was a bit glaikit. It's a good Scottish word, glaikit. Like, I always had my tongue out like that, like concentrating. But it was like coupled with the fact that I was actually quite good at some subjects. Yeah. So it was like that kind of fascination with like music and French when I was at school. But on the other hand, the teacher was like, I'm just staring at the window with my tongue out. You know what I mean? So there was those wee things growing up, like it. And then I suppose when I got to uni, I really did struggle with. Uni was the perfect example of it for me, because it was like the actual content. So when I studied French, all the work was easy. It wasn't easy, but I loved it and I could do it. But I could not sit in a library and write an essay. Do you know what I mean? I just could not sit still.
Yeah.
And I think, see, being sober, like all these ADHD symptoms, I've alleviated like the intensity of them. Definitely, I've managed to like have certain things in my house that help with like tidying up, like a big laundry basket that I can throw stuff in.
Yeah.
Like, but when I was drinking, it was just absolute chaos everywhere all the time. So we spoke about medication together before, and obviously I'm after register for how, I don't know, I waited for almost 3 years for that final appointment and missed it 3 times. So God knows when I get a diagnosis for ADHD, but the good thing is I'm no like relying on it. I can't like need it, because otherwise it's just that was too painful for me to wait 2.5 years and just be told, oh, we can't help you. So I have to just let it go now and see what happens. But I feel like the symptoms can be managed. Like, it's a spectrum, so some people have it more severe than others, but for me, when I was drinking, everything was out the window. There's no way there's no growth anywhere in my life. I'm just causing chaos everywhere. So that was the first start of of beginning to like manage it without taking medication. And I'm not saying some medication. My brother takes medication
For ADHD, is it? Yeah,
my
yeah.
big brother does, and it works for him. But sorry, I don't know. If
I think,
yeah.
I'm not. For me, it's just like I'm not striving for medication, and that's the thing. It's just like I'm not anti-medication either. Where I think at some point in some people's life, it could be, even when it comes to maybe anti-anxiety meditation or depression or anything like that. Like, these things can be good to help maybe get people on track, but I think it's trying to look at the long-term aspect of things. It's just like, I don't think it's something that you want to be doing necessarily long-term. Right. And I think as well, it's just like, I think, for you, like one of the kind of main symptoms or, things of ADHD is thrill-seeking behaviour. And that's probably what your comedy career is probably, like, came from. Yeah. I mean, I can't think of anything that's more terrifying than jumping up on a stage and having to actually, try and make people laugh.
Aye, but there's the irony, there's kind of paradox where, like, stand-ups, David's a stand-up, you know what I mean by this. Like, it's generally shy, introverted people that are stand-ups. I mean, you do get the odd ones that are really extroverted, but you find a lot of really shy. See, we're in a green room for a comedy gig, like nobody's talking to each other. They're all just like shifty.
Yeah, that's like a feeding off, the humour feeds off insecurity.
Well, I think it's almost like their moment to shine. You know what I mean? It's like, this is my big moment where the world's going to hear what I have to say, and it's just, I don't know, jokes about being bald or something. But that probably is why I think neurodivergent people tend to be very creative people, don't they?
Yeah, I've read a book recently which I found really interesting, it was called ADHD, Being a Hunter in a Farmer's World, where this is what they kind of look at, is that 1,000 years ago, having ADHD traits, that genetic traits, would have actually have set you up to be a fantastic hunter. Where that kind of thrill-seeking behaviour and that constant alertness, but the problem is that they see in this society now is that basically it's there's not really any space for hunters, and I think that's one thing that I definitely found with the education system. And I'm not like any teacher or anything like that. If there's a teacher here, I'm not having to go at a teacher, because I think a teacher wants to teach and they want to help people. But I do think with the education system in particular, like, there's lots of people that have, I mean, for me, I definitely slipped through the grates of having ADHD, because the people that were getting diagnosed at school were the people that were setting teachers' hairs on fire, throwing chairs at teachers. and they were the people that were kind of getting diagnosed. And but that's the thing, is it's just like, for me, I was like somebody that was just like, you can either look externally for that stimulation that you're not getting, or you can go internally, where you become almost that kind of dream state where you're actually just going inwards for stimulation. And that does my partner's head in, because whenever she's talking to me, she knows when I'm not listening to her, or she's not interesting me, because it's the only time she gets the 1,000-yard stare where you're just staring through her. And yeah, it's the education system. It's challenged for people that find it hard to concentrate or are creative, and it's yeah. So you said you enjoyed school.
I did. Like, well, I loved the subject. The subjects I was interested in, I was like proper obsessed with them. Like, it was French and music, I suppose, at school, and then, as I said, at uni, it was just. You're right. I think there could have been more help for me there. Do you know what I mean? Because I did suffer, and it was hard because there was people in my class who, on paper, maybe they didn't get as good marks as me, but they could finish an essay, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
I just couldn't sit still, and I wish I'd discovered, like, I don't know wish it's speed, but I wish I had like some sort of. There was a thing called modafinil. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's called a study drug. But I don't advise anybody to take that. But if I look back, I'm like, well, if I could have just sat and. But I understand this kind of uncomfortability and the inability to sit still comes from all these other deep problems within me, like my trauma and being born with ADHD, if I was born with ADHD, or if it was formed throughout my early childhood, or.
They say, well, I don't know, there's different people that say different things, where some people will say that you're either born with it, and that basically genetically you're born with it, and like the chances of you catching it's extremely likely, or there's other people like Gabor Mate, if you know him, his kind of theory on it is that basically it's to do about your relationship with your primary caregiver in the first 2 years of your life, where they say they regulate your nervous system within the first 2 years of your life.
And when they're pregnant as well.
Pardon?
As well.
I don't know. No, it's more to do about attunement. That's what they say, is how attuned you are with your primary caregiver, because they regulate your nervous system, and that's why it's just like the first 2 years of your child's life, they say, is so important, is to try and give them as much attention as possible and as much eye contact, and to be as present with them as possible. That's what I said to my mum. I was just like, when I was younger, I was just like, because my mum and dad are busy people, they've always worked. And I was just like, when I was obviously had a child, and I was just like, what did you do with me when you were like, working? She was just like, we put you in a box in the office. And I was just like a puppy. It explains a lot, like, but but yeah, it's I think one of the blessings, I think, for me of like, realising that there's maybe something not quite right, is realising how terrible I've spoken to myself for, like, I don't know, for 38 years. Like, how would you say your inner monologue is?
Well, that's been quite dark, aye. I remember once punching myself walking down the street, saying, "Go die, you cunt." There was a bit of psychosis then. But I was, which is mental. I know I've never been kind to myself, even to this day. I've always been very harsh on myself. And
even when you're doing, you are doing well at the moment. I would say, you're just about selling out big venues and doing all this stuff. Like, would you say inside that you're proud of yourself? I'm
more like like the thing is, like I've been doing comedy for like since 2018, so like 6 years, and I've been just kind of half-arsing it, I suppose, for like 4 years, just going out every weekend and not really taking it seriously, I suppose. I'm more grateful that I'm sober, because like genuinely, and I know it sounds cliche, but the relationships between my family and my my close loved ones, and the life I have now, that I'm there for all of them, and I'm there to see my niece and nephew, and I spend time with them, is so much more important than fucking doing any comedy gig. Do you know what I mean? But if we're talking about like doing career stuff, like none of it would be possible if I wasn't sober. There's no way. It wouldn't happen, do you know what I mean? It's just given me, I don't know, just a kind of reason to live, I suppose, like, because before I was, so what's the point in this, do you know what I mean? I don't really know where I'm going with that, but
How do you find things from a creative standpoint? Like from the point of view of when you used to drink and take drugs, and when it comes to maybe writing content and, you know, developing stand-up routines, like, can you see a difference in your material? Obviously the material's different, but like, do you find it easier or harder to be creative?
well, I find it harder if I'm in my own head too much. Right now, and this last year, I've been in the process of trying to do practices every day that get me out of my head. Like, because the thing is, when you're sober, you've nothing to get out your head. So you're sitting with these thoughts every day. So it's like, meditating helps, doing recovery stuff helps me. Because the minute, like the other day, I was sitting in self-pity, like, oh, how have I not got this? I need to get this, I need this. My pal phoned me and he's like literally on the verge of wanting to kill himself because of his drug abuse. And immediately I was like, right, monitor to mine, you can stay at mine for a couple of days, trying to help him and stuff. And immediately I didn't feel good that he was going through that, but all that other shit I was going through like meant nothing. It's like, sometimes you just need I need a constant bit up the arse, to be honest, and that's why I need to go to meetings and I need to talk to other addicts, and I need to, the key thing about having like a sponsor and stuff is, see, just having, it doesn't have to be a sponsor, it could be your pal that gets it, like someone to just get all your stupid thinking it. Do you know what I mean? Like all the crazy shit that goes on in your head. Because you know how, like, if your pal's going through something, you can be the best advice giver, you're their counsellor all of a sudden, do you know what I mean? But then when it comes to you, it's like you don't take any of that advice. And it's like, because you're not attached to their ego. But when it's you, it's like, oh, I believe this character Mark and all Mark's problems, it's like all of a sudden it's real. So that to me tells me it's not real. I've just made this up in my head. So I think it is. I remember reading that, probably a lot of you are familiar with Gabor, no Gabor man. Got Tolle. Power of Now. I remember reading that a few years ago and be like, wow, this is amazing. And it's that kind of, I think self-help stuff's great, but it's about the actual action. So like I read that book and I kind of ruminated on it. I was like, I don't feel any different. It's like, because you need to use this as a manual. Do you know what I mean? It almost has to become, and that's, I suppose, using that as a manual is like maybe just having a good meditation program or routine. To not attach myself to all the thoughts in my head, and it's hard, but I found the only way I've got over these things is, the only way around it, there's no shortcut, is I just need to gradually change these habits. I can't change habits immediately, like just the way I've struggled, but if every day I can grow a bit and change a wee thing, then that's a win for me, do you know what I mean? And it's hard not to listen to your head, do you know what I mean? Like, you identify it with so much, and it's realising that they thoughts aren't actually you, and just imagine somebody else saying the crazy stuff that goes on in your head about yourself, and you realise it's bullshit. But I don't know.
No, that's great. I've read a book recently which is on dopamine, and it's touching on what you said there. It's just like, in order to, if you are in the cruxes of, you know, a mental health problem, whether it's addiction and you know, anxiety, depression, or, you know, and I think the book on dopamine touches on it, and it's just like, you need to live on that side of pain for a little while.
You were saying that before, right?
And that's where it's and that's it's I remember when I would not have got better or came to like push myself to, you know, into this kind of how do I put this, you know, era of self-development if I hadn't have given up alcohol for a year, where I was just like, right, I need to stop drinking. And that first month and a half of not drinking, like, I didn't think I had an alcohol problem. I just thought I was normal. I thought I was the same as everybody else. I'd obviously had binging problems, and there was issues there. But yeah, I just remember like crying myself to sleep for like weeks, where there was that security blanket of that's what I essentially was using to regulate my nervous system, where I was just in a constant state of stress for almost 2 weeks. And I remember I was still playing football, and I remember like going like, I've not been drinking for 3 weeks, why are my knees seizing up? Why is my ankles seizing up? And it was withdrawals. And I didn't think I even had a problem. And these realizations that I don't think you realise how deep a hole you're in until you're out.
I think as well, some people like, I don't like, so I've got a brother in recovery. My younger brother probably wants to be in recovery, but he's not. And it's hard sometimes when you stop drinking to know, like, force it upon people. But in my head, I'm just like, I just want you to know how much better this is. But wait, what were you saying there? Sorry, I've just went in a complete ADHD brain fog.
It's alright. I was living on the side of pain. For a while, and yeah, well, it was like dopamine.
Aye.
Hey, did anybody else want to help us out here?
Doesn't else want to read my mind?
Does I have the ability to switch off as well?
I don't know, it doesn't matter, just talk about football or something.
So
look at this t-shirt he's got me in. Look at that Lisbon line.
You had the choice of picking a red or a green one, and you picked a green one.
Aye, because that was Hamilton Accies.
So yeah, so I mean, like dopamine is. I mean, that thing's me and you went for a coffee the other day, and you were straight into a big coffee and a massive cake. Like what?
Rub it in.
What?
I'm allowed some.
But I know, but that's. I think with ADHD, it's like. I mean, hands up here, who thinks that they might have something? So, it's something. I've got it written in my book. It's like it's the DDR2 gene that basically it limits the amount of pleasure you're allowed to feel, and it's something to do about your thalamus and your brain. If you have ADHD, so what will happen is you basically have a closed thalamus. If you're super introverted and like don't like loud noises or spicy food or something like that, they've got an open thalamus where they experience life in a bit more fuller. Where people with ADHD tend to be a little bit more numb to their environment, and that's why it's just like we have this kind of thing where we love to do this kind of like thrill-seeking behaviour, where essentially what it is us trying to feel like we're alive. Because sometimes I can feel like my brain in certain circumstances where I feel super disconnected, and I can feel my brain going like that, like if I'm in a situation where I don't feel like I'm getting a lot from the conversation, or I can feel my brain going, what's going on here? Like, do something. And then it's just like, oh, you need to check your phone or go and get something to eat or something along those lines, where you're just constantly driven by it. How would you say that because this is the big thing around dopamine is food. Like, how would you say do you manage your diet quite well, or?
I've been not bad in the last year since I got sober. I like chip cheese and gravy after a night out. Food's never been an issue with me really. I'll occasionally I think I'll find myself just getting in like a bad habit sometimes. Like in the last month I've no really exercised much, and then I'm just like fuck it every day, like have a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
So I go through wee phases of fucking it, and then I'll go, right, I need to rein it in.
Yeah.
And then, but food's never really, I suppose food can be dangerous if you're really like, I don't know, if you really overeat.
That's been the biggest thing for managing mine, is like just try to like prioritise eating whole foods. Like if I eat ultra processed foods, like or stuff that's got colourings in it, or stuff that nature didn't really intend you to eat, that's when I feel mine. Like that's when I don't feel like I have much control of my brain. Because that's what I said to you. It's just like when you were explaining to me ADHD, I was just like, your brain's almost like a supercar. You've just got no idea how to drive it yet. And I think it's just like, I think what happens when you start to really go in on you know, like eating well, exercising, looking for that healthy dopamine, whether it's through breath work, try to regulate your nervous system. Like, I think what happens is you actually start to gain control of that car a little bit better.
Yeah.
Whereas beforehand, like for me, I know when the only time that I actually felt like I had control of that car was when I was on cocaine. Like, it was just like, woohoo, this is exhilarating. Yeah. But then, you know, there was the massive crash after that, and you know, it was not pleasant for a week after it. So how does your, like, what happens with regards to your family and ADHD? Do you speak to your mum about having ADHD, or?
Aye, but like, I think we were talking about this earlier. I mean, she kind of gets it now because everybody's saying they've got it. She's like, but aye, she doesn't really understand it. She's just like, just fucking tidy your room. Stop making excuses. I'm like, see, mum, you don't understand. I have neurodivergence. Like, fucking do the dishes. Aye, she's more understanding now than she was before. She, these are all get ADHD, you all get something, is what she would say. Aye, no, I think having me and my 3 siblings all feel that we have something at some level. So it's good in that way. We do talk about it a lot, and it's good to have people that understand what you're saying. Do you know what I mean? Because, and also another thing was, like, one of my best friends, he's kind of AD, kind of OCD, and sometimes he'll shout at me for certain things like mess and I realised that it's no helpful. I don't think that's. He's like, no, you need tough love. And I was like, no, that's actually no helpful. Shaming, because all I feel was shame. Do you know what I mean? It just compounds the shame, and I just want to hide away from it even more. Do you know what I mean? And I know that must be hard if you imagine you're living with somebody and you're tidying up all the time, and then they just come in and it's like cupboards open, like a mess. I understand that must be frustrating, but I don't think the way to help people who are neurodivergent is to shout and shame them, I suppose.
Yeah.
No, and I don't want to say, like, I know we have to take responsibility. Right? I'm not saying don't tidy your room, but I don't think the right response is for people to scream at them and go, "What's wrong with you?" So that was the thing I always heard growing up, was something wrong with you. Was the phrase I just always hear. That sounds horrible, doesn't it? Something wrong with you.
But that's the thing, is that, like, being genetic, your mum or your dad, probably it stemmed from one of them as well.
Yeah, well, definitely my dad, I think. And they don't know any different, do you know what I mean? So they're just going to react the way they were brought up to react to things, do you know what I mean? It's just like that trauma getting passed down, isn't it?
Or just not to react to things,
yeah.
Where it just gets bottled. Yeah, I remember talking to, well, obviously as soon as I kind of had that realisation that there was, you know, because this is the thing, is that I had quite a nice childhood. Like, I wouldn't say I had like a bad upbringing or anything like that. I had, you know, my mum and dad were caring people, not necessarily the most loving, but they were nice and caring and took care of me. But I still had, you know, issues with alcohol and drugs, and there wasn't a lot of trauma there or anything like that. And I think that's when I started to, like, you know, do research into myself, and it's just like, I don't think there's always a reason, you know, there's always something there that's driving it, and for me that's when everything just started to make an awful lot of sense. And I was just like, you know, and I remember I was reading, it was Gabor Mate's book Scattered Minds, and I remember, you know, I was sitting there in the car and driving the car and reading listening to the first chapter of it, and just tears just streaming down my face, where it was just that realisation of the implications of, you know, you're not just your relationship with your friends, your, you know, relationships with partners that have been affected by it, and, you know, it was that kind of moment of, like, you know, it's actually been pretty challenging on you as a person. But I remember, like, you know, obviously coming to that realisation and going, oh, I've got that, and then you look around and you're just like, you see your mum and you're like, you fucking definitely got it. Like, yeah, my sister's red setter, you fucking got it too. Probably gave me it. And it's, but then, you know, speaking to my mum about it, and she's just like, fuck's sake. She's just like, she thinks it's some kind of woke thing that I've got. And I think her exact words were, "You'll be wanting a pair of fucking tits next." Like, and I was just like, right, okay, I think we're better off just walking away from this conversation now. So, but it's, yeah, I think it's just, as I said, having compassion for yourself and everybody else around you, and it's just trying to learn to love yourself a little bit more.
I think, well, see, going back to talking about like resentment, I was talking about earlier, like the compassion thing, like, and it's hard because some people might have really done you wrong and hurt you, but see, just trying to have compassion for everybody's situation and think why they're acting a certain way. And again, I reiterate, it can be hard if somebody has really hurt you, and I'm not saying for all situations, but for me, it's really helped to. There's been people in my life who have really hurt me, and some of them aren't in my life anymore, some of them are. But seeing, having compassion for, like, it's obvious how they've came to act that way, do you know what I mean, from the environment they grew up in. But you take responsibility for your side of the street. Do you know what I mean? You keep your side of the street clean. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you, I try to always look at my part in everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, and often when I do that, I'll see that I maybe want to be pals with a person because I'm getting something for them as well. Do you know what I mean? They're probably putting up with my bullshit as much as I am them. So I just try and look at your side, keeping your side of the street clean, in terms of where your part is and everything, and just try and have compassion for other people's situation and why they're acting a certain way. You don't. I don't. At the end of the day, right, I don't have to be friends with somebody. Do you know what I mean? And that was a hard thing when I got sober. Like you were talking about the losing some pals, and some pals just did disappear. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do if I get sober? How am I going to maintain this friendship? They're going to hate me. They're going to think I'm better than them. And see, the people that are meant to be in my life, they're still in my life, and the people that aren't just disappeared. Like, I just found that people didn't want to hang about with you like anymore because they know you're not getting on it. I felt a little bit pathetic, like messaging them like, you want to do something? They're all like patching me in.
I think yeah, there's the flip side of that, where there's the negative aspect of that, where you do miss those. And that's the thing, is it's just like, I do miss those moments of connections at somebody's gaff at 7 o'clock in the morning in a kitchen. Do you know what I mean? Where you do miss that, you just don't want the other shite that comes around it, you know. And I think, but you know, you do have that flip side of maybe losing friends, but I've definitely noticed with me, you know, coming out and being open and talking about this kind of stuff, is that I've had so many people that surprised me that have came to me for help. Yeah. And I've actually, you know, those connections that you've lost with those people, you've kind of had these other people come into your life that kind of go, listen, what you're saying is really resonating with me, and what have you been up to, and their ears are open to it and stuff like that as well. And like, that's a gift for someone like me, do you know what I mean, where it's just like, I love that, do you know what I mean, that thought of actually being able to help people. It's the only reason we're doing this, it's just that, you know, to be able to help people. And I think that's one of the, you can look at things as a positive from that, is, you know, you kind of that kind of shining beacon. And there are people that I would never have expected to reach out to me and go, right, what are you up to? What is it you're doing to make yourself better? And I think that's all we want as humans, is just to be able to, you know, help other people as well, as feel like you're useful to somebody else.
Totally. Being vulnerable is a massive thing. Like, just for me, just encouraging people to be vulnerable and be. I'd for a long time just thought being vulnerable and was like a bad thing. Like, if I found it so hard today, I just would cringe at myself being vulnerable. And I think there's definitely a thing in Scottish society where we all just, like, pretend everything's alright. And I'm starting to sound like James Inglis, don't I?
Aye, but that's the thing, is you speak to so many people and it's like, how are you? And it's just like, aye, fine. Aye, nothing else for it. Dodging away. You know, and it's like, I call them the jams. They're just about managing. Aye. And I think that's a lot of us where we're kind of, and that's the thing, is it's just like, life is hard. You know, it's hard to be healthy. It's hard to, you know, understand what being healthy is. There's so much, you know, different advice out there, and I don't know, like, I don't know about any of you guys, like, but like spending money on food, like healthy food, it's fucking hard. It's really hard. And also, just like, I think there's so much wisdom that's not been passed down through generations, which has just been lost due to convenience, which is, you know, we're just getting peddled cheap, shitey, convenient food that just makes us feel like crap.
Rustler burgers.
What?
Rustler burgers. My pal, like, he's got the worst diet in history, and for Christmas dinner, we had a friend's Christmas dinner, he had a turkey Rustler burger. It's turkey. It's a Rustler burger. Aye, sorry, aye. So you're right, the food is terrible.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know.
No, it's the one part. I mean, that's the thing is, I've definitely, the whole drinking thing, I'm over with, and I've had the odd drink every now and again, and it's just not, and I'm glad I did, because it's just not there anymore, that fire that I used to have to extinguish it with. And caffeine, I don't drink caffeine anymore. I've had a second child recently, and there's been a couple of days where it's been needed, but I'm not caffeine dependent anymore. But the one thing that I do find hard is food. Like, you know, I probably eat healthy, really healthily, probably 70% of the time. And then there's just this other part of time where this other person just takes over, where there's just this demon that just wants shitey food. And it's just so hard but it's showing yourself compassion as well, where it's all right to enjoy things every now and again, and I think that's where it's just trying to find that balance.
Aye.
Where for me, I was just this pendulum that was swinging in between, you know, it was just like pleasure, and then all of a sudden that pendulum naturally just swings back over into pain. And the more time that you actually, this is the thing with dopamine, is that the more time you press that pleasure button, the less it actually starts to actually work, and it pings back into pain. So what ends up happening is we actually think we're treating ourselves constantly, but then what happens is it's just pinging back into the area of pain. And yeah, that's where I was just at this seesaw. And I think now what's happening with me slowly is it's slowly starting to balance out, but it's hard.
I think with alcohol, I can't even have one. Do you know what I mean? I'm at the level where I just, it's the risk for that. That's the thing about other addictions, is like, the thing that was, I had a cocaine addiction more, like, the cocaine's what really like brought me to my knees. But like, I just see them as one, because the problems though, the drink is my mind. And I was saying, I'm having a brain fog. Brain fart.
Cocaine and alcohol.
What did you say?
And dopamine.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I can't have one because it's not worth the risk. Do you know what I mean?
No. I wouldn't advise that either. But for me, it was nice to know that it's no longer there, and that's the thing, is that was just for me.
No, of course.
But yeah, I had to go and do some mad shit in order to get to that point. You know, I've been on men's mental health retreats, done plant medicines, all this kind of stuff as well. But it's everybody's got their own way of finding that way, but it's finding the way to getting better. But you know, it definitely seems like you're on the right track. And see from the point of view of, like, you know, obviously when you're out, you know, touring, or not touring, sorry, but you know, like doing the Edinburgh Fringe and stuff like that, like, how do you like cope with having, and I mean, I take it, have you maybe had them like bad shows before where it's not gone as well as you thought it would?
Oh yeah. But because, you mean because I was using?
No, just in general, where you just feel like, like, I'm just curious to know, like, you know, that kind of like, how you obviously, you probably would have dealt with that through alcohol, I suppose, and drugs and things like that is a good way to kind of squash it. But like, do they still happen now? Do you still maybe walk off a stage and go, that was garbage?
I mean, I did, so the 2 fringes ago, just before, I got sober during the fringe in 2023, and I was out my nut, coked out my nut on the stage every day, and I was saying to the audience, like, I've not been home, and they were all like laughing, like, funny comedian. I'm like, no, I've not been home. And they were like, okay, it's quite awkward. And then, I literally, one gig I was still in some gaff at 7 o'clock and I was on stage at 9, and it was horrendous. One night it did go really well and I thought it was the best gig of my life. It was probably terrible, they were probably just laughing at me, do you know what I mean? So, last year I did the Fringe completely sober. I had most nights were good. I had one night where it completely nothing. It was like almost silence, and it was it was a long hour, man. But I think, do you know what it is? And this is the thing I've like trying to deal with, and I've struggled with, is being so invested in the outcome of everything. It's like, it's even with this show I'm doing, I'm like, if I'm so invested in me as a character and Mark the comedian and what Mark's doing, and this is Mark that's getting all this and Mark that's funny, it's like, as soon as it's like taken away, I feel empty inside, do you know what I mean? So I've tried to just say what will be. Like, however many people come to a show, well, that's it. And if they don't like, even for this show, I was shouting myself like before this, because I've never done it. Like, I know I've spoken in front of people, but being like this vulnerable, I suppose, is I was shouting myself. I was speaking to my sponsor outside, like, I need help. And it's been fine. It's been all right. I've like, once I got out of my head, I need to get out of my head. But having this constantly thinking about the future and things that can go wrong, and it's pointless. It gets you nowhere, and it's hard not to think about it. And like, financial insecurity has always been a massive thing for me. Like, we grew up skint, so like, always thinking that I'm always going to be skint, and I'm never one day going to be comfortable. That's still in me to the day, and I still can't shift that. But I need to just try and live in the moment. It's all about trying to live in the moment. That's it. It's like, and it's not easy, but for me, it's just repeated actions to try and change habits. I don't know what the saying is about how many days it takes to change a habit. I'm looking at you, like, you do podcasts, you must know. I've heard 60 days or something. Aye, so it's trying not to having like so much investment in the outcome of everything. Just what will be. Just aye, and just try and chill out.
It's a beautiful place to be if you can get there. Like, you know, it's well done. If you can live your life thinking that way most of the time, then that's pretty great. What's your kind of thoughts on the comedy industry as a whole at the moment?
To get into comedy. I think like any industry, everybody's kind of struggling. Do you know what I mean? It feels like the gap's widening, like between. If you're starting out, it's a lot harder than it used to be. It feels like you get all these kind of medium-sized venues closing everywhere, music venues, and it does seem like you either have to be fucking selling at the Hydro or you're playing to 10 people. It's like the Fringe. I'm kind of a love-hate relationship with the Fringe, because I like the Fringe, but if I didn't have somewhere to stay there for free, I wouldn't be able to do the Fringe. I can't afford to do it. So I feel like the Fringe Festival is. When I saw that Creative Scotland did, I don't know if anybody here works for Creative Scotland, but last year I'm sure they cut their funding, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, you've got the biggest arts festival in the world, but people who are like starting out, who can't afford to fund their projects, you know, wanting to help them. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, but it's alright to have all these English people, and not against English people, but do you know what I mean? Like, from people from around the world, bringing all their comedy to the biggest city and rating it all in, and then it's like people. I mean, I've literally had no money to start doing comedy. Do you know what I mean? And I've not even made that much money doing comedy. I've got to just do it because I love it. So, I mean, I'm fortunate. I'm doing a bit bigger like gigs now that I can maybe pay my rent a bit better. But it is quite bleak. But I wouldn't dissuade people from getting into it, because if you really are passionate about it, you can make it work. And
how do you feel? What's the realms of social media like at the moment in time with comedy, and trying to get content out there and for it to gather traction?
Yes, I struggle with ADHD. I just struggle with the consistency of anything. Do you know what I mean? Like posting. I feel like, you've got to post every day at 5 o'clock, because that's when everybody's sitting scrolling. I hate this. Do you know what I mean? I don't like it. I hate having to be on social media. The phones, I don't know if anybody in here is like neurodivergent. Like, a phone is the worst thing for us. Do you know what I mean? It's the worst. Yeah. It's the most. It's hell. It's like it's almost like, see, when I'm in my living room, the couch is like the evil place where I sit with my phone. But like my computer and like my piano and that's over the other side, and that's, and you just get to there, and get my finger on the mouse to turn on the computer, and I'll feel safe because I'm like, oh, it's me and I can make music. And then but it's that kind of I know I'm going off on like tangents here, but like it's almost like you feel paralysed.
Yeah.
Is that feeling not being able to get out of the bed anymore? It's like this big weight on you, stopping you. But social media, I understand that it's useful, but I just feel that there's a lot of people at the top raking in money, exploiting people at the bottom. So it's almost that it's almost like we're being pushed. I feel like just being pushed into a corner with everything online, basically.
I feel the same way.
Like you feel like you need an app for your, like I'm obviously going to have a banking app because it's so useful. You know what I mean? It's so useful I can send my mom the money over. But I don't want all the other stuff. So it's like having that discipline. It's like I can have an RBS app but no Candy Crush. And I struggle with that. So
Yeah. No, that's great.
No.
I would just like to thank you. Just, I think we're. Is there anything else you want to talk about while we're here?
No.
Anything else you want to get off your chest, and we'll move into doing some questions
I
and
just
shares
try to thank
and
everybody
stuff
for
like
coming. I hope you've got something for that. You know what I mean? Just try to share my experience, I suppose, and if you see some similarities, then that's great. If you've taken interest for that.
No, I really appreciate it, mate. Honestly, showing that vulnerability as well, mate.
Cool.
Does anybody need the toilet? Just wait for Gary to come back. See, that was a pee, right? You definitely had a poo.
We all shite.
No?
Even the Queen. Oh well.
Right. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the floor for any questions for Mark or myself. Does anybody put a hand up? Anybody want to ask a question? You're going to be the only one, aren't you? we need more than one to ask a question. So. Right.
I just want to say thank you both. Like both of the things that you said made me feel heard and seen, and had loads of light bulb moments. When Mark, you were saying your parents would say like what's wrong with you, or your pals would say that, like I grew up being called hopeless for losing things or forgetting things.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really nice and warm and solacing to feel familiar. But one thing I've struggled with is having all the information but none of the action. Like I just thought I'd ask, when you were both given the information that you had based on the predisposition that you had ADHD, how did you move from information to action? Because I think that's where I'm at the moment, where yes, I know there might be something wrong with me, to use your term, Mark, but how do I lean into it and actually turn that into something more practical?
You're probably better answering this.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to...
I've still got curry stains in my trousers. So you've got your life together better than me.
I think for me it's... I think it was... You guys will be able to cut this, right?
Or even any practical habits on a day-to-day basis.
Well, the thing is, for me, I think like it was just trying to slow. At the end of the day, you're basically just very, very dopamine dependent. And that's it. So it's trying to find out ways in which you can and just improve your daily habits in a way. And that one of the biggest things for me was like, which helped with my ADHD massively, it depends if you have a family. Like for me, getting up an hour early and having that space in order to actually process, and I would actually just get up in the morning and just sit in a dark room myself and just let my brain just go. And that's the thing is, and I think when you're just waking up and then you're literally just go from that word day, your brain never really catches up, and it's just that you're constantly just scattered. And I think for me, having that hour in the morning to really focus on myself. And I think one of the biggest things for me that really, really helps me with action, right, is realizing that the odds are set against you. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, is realizing that it's really, really hard to be happy and healthy, and using that as motivation to move, and realizing that we live in a world where, as a human, what we need connection, we need nourishment, we need a regulated nervous system, which you don't necessarily have if you have ADHD, and purpose, like these 4 things. And it's just going, right, okay, it's really hard to get those things from our environment, our world, and it's going, right, okay, each day, how am I getting them, and fighting for it. And that it's having that motivation, that it's just like, it's hard, and it's going to be hard, but pushing forward, and it's trying to eat as well as you can, and knowing that it's hard, to be healthy. And that's the kind of how I motivate myself, where I see being happy and healthy now as a rebellious thing, where I used to see, going out and taking cocaine and drinking all weekend as the rebellious thing. And now I see, like, that is the biggest act of rebellion that anyone can do now, is probably just being really happy and really healthy, and striving for that and trying to find that. So for me, it's just that kind of, it's a mindset, that you need to try and get into, that it's like, it's a fucking slog, but I'm going to get there, and having compassion for yourself, that you're going to slip, you're going to fall, you're going to have waves that you're trying to, that are going to wipe you out on a daily basis, but there are days that you're going to be able to ride those big waves straight into the shore, and it's going to feel great, and you're going to want to do it again the next day.
Yeah. That's great.
I feel like we have some sort of like capitalism creep, whereby everything that's designed to combat some of the symptoms that we have as a society ends up becoming a commodity. Like you said, food is more expensive than ever before. Things like breath work, and I know that they're great, these like mental health retreats, but they're so expensive.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can't afford them. They're on waiting lists from the NHS for certain ailments and neurodivergencies. Is there anything like fundamentally free that we can like rely on, whether it's breath or cold water therapy or journaling, or any of these kind of habits that you've found that have been like a proper breakthrough?
For me, breath work is now something that I do on a daily basis. For me, it's just like I have a 10-minute breath work routine, and if you'd said to me 4 years ago, I wouldn't even have been able to tell you what that is. I didn't even know I had a nervous system 4 years ago, let alone a fucked one. Just being able to have that tool of, and I can feel myself some days where, like, see if I don't do my breath work in the morning, it's just like I'm quicker to react to things, and get angry at things, where I feel like if I've done that breath work in the morning, which is just 10 minutes, you can go into YouTube and just go breath work routines, and there'll be hundreds of thousands of things that you can just look up and do. Yeah. And for me, it's just like, I always say, it's like this, if you forget to brush your teeth in the morning and you've got furry teeth, like, if I don't do my breath work now, it's like a psychological version of that, where I just feel a little less mentally clean all day, and I'm less likely to get pissed off and be an arsehole. So, but you're right, you've got these men's work retreats and all this stuff, and it's so expensive for people, and that's the thing is, it's just like there's so little out there for people to strive for. And the problem with a lot of these industries, which is like, the holistic industry and stuff like that, is that a lot of people look at it and go, looks weird. But there's a lot of people there that are very woo-woo, and like, that's the thing, but it's there's not, and that's where the purpose of these things is to try and normalize this stuff and go, this is actually what we need as a human. This is going to help you human better, is doing these routines and working them into your daily schedule. Like, for me, like, another thing I do every morning is I have a pint of lemon water, like every morning, lukewarm lemon water, because that's going to help cleanse my liver. Like, there's so much more toxins in our environment than there used to be. Like, and the problem is with a lot of mental health, ADHD, autism are all exacerbated because of toxins in our environment. There was none of these 50 years ago, but the problem is that our livers can't actually process the amount of toxins. So what happens is there's basically just an excess amount of toxicity going around our bodies. So for me, like, a pint of lukewarm lemon water every morning, if the rest of the day's a shit show, at least I've done that, and it's just trying to compound these little healthy habits that don't cost a lot. And then once you start to notice a little difference, you then go, right, I'm going to maybe chuck another one of those habits in there, and just almost like collect them like Pokemon, and it's just like, and that's trying what to do is the best way, and it's trying to find, community, trying to find places where you can have, like, men can actually have a below surface level conversation. You know, like what we're having right now. This is what's missing in society, is people don't have this, where we can actually just talk about, you know, it's pretty hard to human at the moment, and normalising that. So, yeah. Any other questions, guys? Yeah?
Absolutely. You see, like, what is your sleep like? Because I've like very happy bed, and you see going to bed, I have to start doing that. So I feel like I'm constantly going that. I remember looking going into that. I have to sit and like watch like videos on my phone. So I can fall asleep.
I'd do that. I watch murder interrogations. I'm not joking. The same one. That away from my ear. I'm like, no, like, see, growing up, I used to watch, like, my wee brother would share a room. He's like, "Man, you can't go to bed without watching The Simpsons." And I did. I used to just watch TV. The Simpsons are still game every night to get to sleep. But every night, and even to this day, mate, I sleep with like a YouTube video that away from my ear. It's no good.
That can't be good.
No, especially that it's a murder interrogation and all. And I know all the bits of the interrogation because I've listened to it like 20 times.
Is it a real interrogation?
Aye. I know every beat, I know every word.
Is it the same murder interrogation?
Well, there is. They go through phases.
What is it? Is it a series, like, or?
No, just on YouTube you can watch people's interrogations. But, a favourite? I don't know. The one I watched recently is a woman. I don't know. This is let me help people's mental health, and I'm fucking become a, don't know, CISSI fucking.
Like, I mean, if somebody had said to me that they're struggling with sleep, I would say, like, I have a thing where I try and switch my 4G off at about 8 o'clock at night and stay away from my phone until maybe like 7, 8 o'clock the next day. I think one of the worst things you can do as a human being right now is look at your phone last thing at night and first thing in the morning. Like, it fucks with you. Right. Like, your endocrine system, all your hormones, all this stuff. Like, it's not, as a human being, it's not something that we are meant to do. And don't get me wrong, I say that 8 o'clock at night, 12. There's some days I go fuck it and I'm sitting there on my phone at last thing at night. Do you know what I mean? But like, trying to, I find reading a book. Do you read?
Can't concentrate.
Yeah, no, I know. That's it's. Or even audiobooks are pretty good. Like, honestly, see, even like, I remember, like, see an audiobook like Barack Obama's autobiography, right? It's just boring enough to send you off to sleep. Do you know what I mean? But then slightly interesting.
No, I totally reiterate that. I think that you get a book that you're not that fussed about, you know, that you're not that bothered about, and if you miss the main parts, you still get to sleep. You know, that's you know, something that you've got a vague interest in, but you're not going to get tested on it. It's not coming up in the French exam.
But I mean, even with that, mate, I still sleep shite. Like, I've got a busy head as well. There's some times where it's just like I can just get into that zone and fall asleep, and then there is like sometimes it's just that kind of, after that kind of 15 or 20 minute mark, it just seems to just, I don't know, sometimes my head just seems to just, I feel like I don't get to sleep within that first 10-15 minutes. I'm just awake for hours. Oh, and then you start to get stressed out about it, and then the stress starts to keep you up. And yeah, that's one thing I've learnt with my kids. I've been having really disruptive sleep with my kids just now because I've got a newborn. Is not stressing about not getting a lot of sleep. I think that's just as bad for you. Where I think, like, if you can just be, because you start to just overthink and you go, oh my God, how am I going to do tomorrow? How am I going to do this? You're going to do it fine regardless of the sleep you got, but I think that stress that you put yourself through in the middle of the night of not getting sleep is worse for you than actually not getting the sleep as well.
Prevents you from getting to sleep with it. So I need to get to sleep at a certain time.
If I get to sleep now, I'll get 6 hours sleep. If I get to sleep now, I'll get 5 hours sleep.
But see, when you're sleeping, is your head gone mental as well? Like your dreams?
I've had some of that dreams.
It's
when I'm anxious, my dreams seem to be mental.
But I think, yeah, having that preparation before sleep, like removing yourself from screens for like 8 hours, that's like try. Like there's some nights it won't work. There's some nights you just get caught. That's what these things are here for. They're here for our attention. Like our attention is essentially a currency now to these people, where it's just like, and that's a motivation for me as well, where I realise that phones, that's it, our attention now is a currency essentially too. The longer we're on these platforms, the more these people make money. So for me, it's just like, right, if I can do it from 8 to 8 the next day, that's a win, you know, for me, and trying to move in the right directions. And but you'll get it wrong and you'll get it right with sometimes. But yeah, I could sit and say meditation, you know, some light breath work and stuff like that. They're all things that can help just kind of regulate yourself a little bit as well. One thing that's helped me massively with getting to sleep at night is getting up earlier. That's one thing that I noticed, where I would always sleep like up until like the last minute. It'd be like 8 o'clock, I'm getting up. As soon as you start to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, right, I can guarantee you, right, by the time it gets to 10 o'clock, half 10, 11 o'clock at night, you're tired. But then also you've had that hour in the morning to actually just recalibrate as well, and, you know, just like welcome the day almost. Because like this is where it's just like, if I'm getting woken up by a toddler at, you know, 7 o'clock in the morning screaming at me, right, it's not a great start to the day. You feel like someone's chasing you for the rest of the day. Do you know what I mean? It's hello. Where yeah, I must admit, just that getting up earlier, you know, and I know guys that get up at 4:30, they're maniacs, you know what I mean, ice baths and stuff. You don't need to do that. I think 6 o'clock in the morning is a good aim, you know. And or even like, if you think it's too early, start at 7:15 and then do that, and then go to 6:30, and then just slowly work your way back. Because if you think about it, you go, oh, it's 15 minutes. You're just taking 15 minutes off, and just slowly work your way to a point where you're getting to that point at night where you're like, I feel tired now, you know. So that's one thing I would say with sleep, is definitely getting up earlier helps sleep at night. Yeah. But it's fucking hard getting up early, like snoozing if you don't have to. It's so hard.
Ross, can I come in? I just want to thank you for organising this, and Mark for sharing, the both of you for sharing, because I was saying to you earlier, I'm in recovery myself. I've been in recovery for a long time now, from substance use. I think what's amazing about events like this is, if you're in mental health recovery, if you're aware, if you have a diagnosis in terms of cognitive diversity, if you're in recovery from dependency and you maintain it and you build resilience, you gain a sense of agency or mastery, right? And I use that word with humility, right? Because what works for me might work for me, and I can do a number on myself and say it's working for me, when actually, when I take a long hard look at myself, I'm a mess. After 20 years in recovery, not a good advert. But I think it's something that we as communities, or a community of people, can offer to wider society now. And I was really struck tonight by, Ross, you talked about CHIME. It's an acronym: connection, hope, meaning, identification and empowerment. And maybe I'll get dyslexia as well, because that's not in the right word.
Sorry, you're in good company, you're fine.
This professor was telling me all about Ching, and I thought he kept talking about Ching. So you've got connection, right? You're connected to other people with real relationships, and you only get that by having those real conversations.
Yeah.
It's interesting you're talking about, you love the idea of being out, you're not having those really in-depth kitchen conversations at 7 o'clock in the morning. I would never remember what we were talking about, although they were really significant. I'd be lucky if I'd remember the person I was talking to as well. But recovery gives you that. You might not be the best friend, but you'll make some of the best friends in the world, because it's unconditional. You know, it's real care. I learned how to love, you know, at the age of 41, coming into recovery, and I thought I knew what love was, But 20 years later, I'm understanding that I don't love myself, even after 20 years of recovery. But I'm on a journey. My life's a journey, my recovery's a journey, it's all the same thing. And I've learned all that through connection with other people, real relationships, right? Hope, positivity, you know? Don't naysay, don't gainsay, just crack on with it and be open, you know? Being able to re-identify with other people, leaving old friends behind, no feeling guilty about it, identify as the person that has the responsibility for you on this planet. Give your life meaning. Don't do stuff to be performative. Talked about ego. All an ego is, and we all have it. It's no good, it's no bad, it's just your ego. It's just how I want to be seen by myself and by other people. You know, cross between George Clooney and thankfully my super ego's got a voice today, so it can't do me, man. It's just really happening, right? And my id, right, that's me, that's King Baby, right, I want that, so I need it now. I don't care if it's yours, I'm taking it, you know. I've learned all that stuff in recovery, and that's something we can give back. And when you were asking there earlier about start making the small changes, do it to suit you, and those changes will take root. Might take 3 months, 60 days or 10,000 hours, but don't think about that. Make it work for you and keep it in the moment. I take 2 pints of water in the morning, I take 2 pints at lunch, 2 pints in the afternoon. I don't need the lemon juice because I'm going to the bog all the time. Make wee changes, start off like that. And look for wins, not so that you can go and tick a box or say to your mates, yeah, that's me on the 3 litres a day. Do you know what? That's all performative. Think about how you feel at the end of the week. If you're talking about expense, cold water dipping, find some cold water and dip yourself in it. That doesn't cost. Breathing, we talk about breath all the time. Instead of breathing through your mouth, close your mouth and use your nostrils. That's breath work, you know. These are simple, small changes, and look for the wins. Check in with yourself, how do I feel after keep on doing that, right? And those ones will motivate you to put a bit more structure in place. And if you're worried about sleep, start off the night before, the night you're worried about sleeping in. Get to bed early, get up early, be active, do 10,000 steps a day, get yourself a Garmin, second hand. And then that's a nightmare because that, you know, it's just as bad as a phone. But if you're active during the day and stay away from a screen last thing at night, because you're just stimulating your brain, you know. I'm a really light sleeper, always have been, but it's a total nightmare. And see what I really got from both of you talking, and this is the guru of recovery after 20 years. After 20 years in recovery, I've built a career doing what I love. My life has meaning because of my career, because I support people with, you know, recovery stuff. Being in recovery for me for the last 20 years and working in recovery and substance use, everything I do is performative because of my ego, even after 20 years. And it was so wonderful to hear both of you as men and younger in your recoveries and your development journey, right, getting it, that don't be performative, because you're right about capitalism, Ross, you're right about the education system or the health system. Our lives are governed by systems. All of our lives, every single part of our lives governed by systems. And it's justified by this is the most efficient way to get the most for the most. But we're human beings. We don't operate, we're not designed to operate within systems. We're designed to sit down at a table and talk and eat together and hold hands and get eye contact. That's what we're designed to do. And if you're watching the telly at 11 o'clock at night, maybe put the telly off and have a conversation, right? Because that's what we're designed to do. And we're forgetting all about that.
Yeah.
And with all humility, one of the joys of tonight is folk in recovery being able to talk about being in recovery and giving rather than I'm in recovery. Do you know what I mean? See, over the last 20 years, the recovery movement's changed. The substance use recovery movement, I'm not very popular in it because I say this, they've learned a lot from the mental health recovery movement. Because the mental health recovery movement, it was easier for mainstream society to embrace it. Substance use recovery community, that was difficult, so it remained really insular. But see the way you talk, Mark, you're open, genuinely open, and you're not coming out with all the usual talk, right? You've got it because you're applying it to you. It's not performative. So I'll shut up now. That was my share.
No,
That was great.
That was
Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you so much for that, man. Aye. Living in your authentic self.
Trying.
That's it. Your truth, man. We've got a couple of people actually in the room who run, are involved in the kind of mental health community as well. We've got Gary here from Brothers in Arms, and we've got Scott here as well from Bands of Brothers. And if you want, Gary, you want to talk just a wee bit about what it is you do as well?
funny you say that. I was saying, you know what, tonight's not about me. I'm just going to not say anything, but now you've put me on the spot, of course, I'll be happy to. So, does anybody in the room know anything about Brothers in Arms, heard about Brothers in Arms at all? So Brothers in Arms is an online charity. We have spent the last 2 years developing with a clinical psychologist, 40 years under his belt, and a computer programmer building an online AI therapist. The technology is called Blether, and I was actually going to catch yourself before you left to say that the technology is free on the Brothers in Arms website. You don't need to enter your name, you don't need a username, anything like that. You can go instantly into it, and you can talk. You can go for just a blether, or you can go for a deep blether. Just a blether is a kind of 15-20 minute interaction where you can present whatever issues and problems that you have, and work through those. I use it myself for various times, situations that come up. And then deeper blethers, really trying to get to some of the root of some of the more traumatic things that maybe happened in throughout life. So that's more of a kind of 30-minute plus interaction. I demonstrate the technology when I give training to companies and organisations, and the technology is continually learning. And for my piece, I think it really is a fantastic piece of technology now, and to help people just in the room understand my kind of take on it. You know, I wish we were all, I wish all men were equipped to go and sit down in a room as has been happening here. For some people in the room, this might be the first time they've ever come to something like this, or they've ever even opened up about asking for help or whatever. Brothers, this piece of technology, Blether, should be at the very beginning of people's mental health challenges. It's a place where there's no human judgment. There's nobody at the other end of a phone line or a computer judging you in your belief of being judged or whatever. So how I like to put it to people is that it's a fantastic practice place to go. How many times do we hear guys saying to us, what am I going to speak to a therapist for? I don't even know how I feel. I don't know what I feel. I couldn't possibly go and sit in a waiting room and speak to somebody, that sort of thing. This is the place, in the darkness of 6 in the morning in that room. You know, use the technology, maybe put your screen on night mode or whatever so that Ross doesn't come after me. But you know, genuinely, that's where I see it. It's a practice place. It's a place to get to work out, practice what you might say, practice the issues that you might have, and then really honestly, that's where my hope is that you open up to loved ones. You then can progress to an AA, a CA, an Andy's Man's Club, face-to-face therapy, walk and talk groups, lots of different things. So thank you to Ross for giving me the platform to share a wee bit about Brothers in Arms, and if anybody wants me to direct them to the Blether technology, I'm happy to wait before I leave and direct you onto that on the Brothers in Arms website. So thanks very much for the speech.
Cheers, Gary. Scott.
Yeah, thanks very much, and thanks very much for this evening. That's been really great, and just great hearing two guys speak so openly about all things mental health and addiction. It's been brilliant. Just a little bit about myself. So, hi everyone, I'm Scott McDonald. I've started an initiative. It's definitely not as well developed as Brothers in Arms, called Bands for Brothers. Just be honest with everyone, I'm somebody that's suffered my whole life with mental health issues, but I've very much kind of probably central Scotland sort of style, always kind of been the big, tall anyway, 6'6", but big character, and always kind of been laughing and joking, but there's been another side. The thing I suffer with is OCD. Grew up late 80s, early 90s. It was just kind of seen as little quirks. It's often trivialised, even today. It's, you know, people think it's keeping your shoes neat and tidy and stuff like that, but what people don't see is the absolutely debilitating sides of it as well, where I couldn't put the cooker on because I was so nervous about leaving the cooker on that I would have to then take a photo of the cooker so I could then check and get reassurance later on. So lived this kind of life, and then always kind of done well at my work, you know, had good relationships and stuff, and I've got a lovely family. But a couple of years ago I was kind of feeling a bit down, and I thought, what can I do? There'll be other people feeling in a similar situation. And what was a real kind of turning point for myself is having two young boys as well, and what I want to do is normalise the conversations on men's mental health. So I came up with the idea of Bands for Brothers, which is just wristbands. What they're there to do is to raise awareness of men's mental health, and also by wearing a wristband it's showing that that person is open and receptive to having an honest conversation on mental health, which will be the catalyst, hopefully for change. All the profits go to Sam H. I'm doing this all myself. It's very early days. I would say there's been a lot of great chat and stuff in the room. If anyone's got any ideas, I'm more than willing to, you know, to listen to those ideas, because I don't know which path this is going to go. But I'll just kind of leave you with, you know, I know it's always cliched and it's always like if you help one person and stuff, but I ultimately believe that. And for me as a father, the biggest sign of progress that I think I've made is post-COVID, my eldest son, he struggled a bit with anxiety, just from being in the house and so much, and missing his friends and schooling in those formative years, and he was feeling really anxious before school, and he was actually physically making himself sick before school, and he's a lovely outgoing boy that you would never sort of think this of. And a few weeks ago actually, the teacher kind of came along and said to all the class, like, you can do a show and tell, you know, what do you want to do it on? I'm thinking, right, it's either going to be Fortnite or it's going to be football. It's going to be one of the two. He done it on anxiety, and he talked to the class about how his anxiety made him feel, how it affected his hobbies, how his parents supported him through it, and it was just great. And his teacher actually started crying and came up and said, well done. And for me, that's progress, and if I don't do anything else, then that's what's up.
That's amazing.
Amazing. Well done, man. Thank you.
Before we kind of start to wrap things up, is there any more questions there at all? Anybody want to ask anything else? Okay, right. Thank you so much for everybody, just for being here and contributing and showing up. Like, it's so important for people to show up to these things, because there'll be so many people that would have probably have went, I quite fancy that, or I quite need that, but wouldn't do it. And they'll be sitting watching and seeing, you know, who came to that thing or like that. And now we can show to people, we've got a full house here, you know. And actually this week we actually had a lot of people asking for tickets and we couldn't give them to them. Last thing, so like this is something that I look to continue to do, and any person, what we'll do is any person that was in this room today and stuff like that as well, is that you know please come to the next one. You know, that's the thing is, and that's what this is all about, is trying to, you know, get to that point where we're doing these things not in a shop. You know, we're doing it somewhere big. And I think, you know, feeling like we are all contributing to the issue or the problem that we have in our society is probably one of the biggest, I would say, cures for mental health out there. Is that, you know, our feeling that we're actually showing up and turning up to things that's going to make a difference, because this does make a difference. You know, we've came here, we've connected, you know, this is something that's never really been done before, you know, like a comedian in a shop in an environment like this, and we've filmed it, and it's each tiny little thing like this starts to make change, because this is just what's missing within our society is connection. As Jordan talked about there, we're so disconnected. David, you could probably talk for hours on connection. You've spoke to some of the greatest people on connection, haven't you? And you spoke to me about it, and you know, it's we're getting that kind of connection, whether you're talking or just listening. You know, it's people that are here just talking about real stuff that we're all going through, and every single one of you people in here have came and made a difference. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of you.
Yeah,
Mark, every single person that's came here tonight, because you've not just showed up for me, you've showed up for everybody.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you. So well done, everybody.
Well done.
And that's us. Here we go. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Well done, brother.